machines, and then he ran them in his imagination to see how they worked, and if they broke down, he rebuilt it in his mind before he actually started building it in real life.
How about Edgar Cayce? Did he understand this? I think so.
Yes, sure. Yeah. Well, people who shift frequency levels to go into trance or to change their consciousness level, this is all part of it as well. But, part of a big thing that's happening is this transformation process that we're going through, because the waves of higher frequency just keep coming and coming and coming, and it's lifting us into a higher level of knowing, a higher way of seeing the world. But the early stages of this process, and we started to touch on this before the break, but can be a bit disruptive, and I think it's very helpful to know what happens in the early stages so that we know that there is something positive coming, that we are actually moving through something, and the early stages as the body gets revved up, initially it kind of disturbs your comfort level. You're used to things being a certain way, and now it's getting buzzier. You feel more, hyperactive sometimes, or you start to feel more emotion, both positive and negative. And you may even have your heart pound. I've had that for a year or so, where nothing was wrong with me, but I'd lay down and my heart would just be pounding. Or you may have like waves of heat, internal heat, and it's not menopause, and or
I wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know about that one, but I would. And so you're just more hyper. You get more dramatic highs and lows and erratic emotional releases. You can be real overly sensitive and it's almost electrical. You can feel prickly and buzzy. And a lot of people have a lot of trouble sleeping with this early stage of the process. But that's as the energy comes in and starts pushing on you. And you have to let go of all your old ways of doing things so that you can adapt to the higher frequency. That's what's happening. It's almost like it's kind of roto-rootering its way through you. And as that continues on, and you continue to increase your frequency, the next thing that happens is that all kind of the subconscious blocks and subconscious fears that have been stored down in the subconscious mind, and you didn't have to look at them, they were you were in denial, those can no longer stay in the subconscious mind because that's a very low frequency of awareness. So they sort of pop up to the surface like popcorn going off, because there's nowhere for them to hide. And they pop up and come into your conscious mind or come into your daily reality. Or in society, they come into the current events and the news, because this process is happening at an individual level and at a societal level. So, you wonder what's going on in politics today. It's a large part of it is that we are collectively releasing the subconscious stuff from our society as well as our individual things.
At what level should people have this frequency? Is there any specific guideline?
What do you mean at what level?
I mean, should they have frequency at a high rate as opposed to a medium rate?
Well, I think that you just have to be with yourself and wherever you are within this process. And the best thing I know to do is relax and let the energy work on you. Just let yourself go with it. Don't resist it. If you're getting overheated or getting, buzzy, just let it work on you. Just relax and let it move through. And as things surface from the subconscious, then it's like Pandora's box is opening, sort of, and a lot of people will start to notice more dramas and traumas acting out in their life, or more polarities and emotional conflicts and things that are upsetting, increased argumentativeness, name-calling, condemnation, all kinds of things. A lot of what we're seeing in politics now is part of the symptom of this stage where people are starting to feel the stuff that they didn't have to look at in the past. And this is too where things like in politics it'll be scandals will surface, or in families it'll be sexual abuse or physical abuse or something that used to be able to be kept secret, but there are no secrets anymore. And that's part of this higher frequency.
Earlier we talked about law of attraction. Let's get into that.
Yes.
Tell me about your thoughts on that.
Well, I think the law of attraction is very good information, and it has to do with resonance, but it's unfortunately, I think, phrased in a way where it seems like we're trying to attract the things we want from the outside world, which basically is an incorrect way of viewing the world. The outside world is not separate from us. We don't draw into us through magnetism things we want. We simply become one with everything around us, that we put the frequency that we want, okay, in our bodies, in our minds, in our emotions, and in the field of energy around us. And that frequency is, always remember, is the way you love to feel. When you're feeling your best self, when you're really happy, when you're cheerful, when you like yourself. And it's a simple thing. It's nothing, to measure. Do you know what I mean? It's just when you feel good.
And other people notice that.
Of course they do, yeah. And when you strike the tuning fork of that kind of energy and radiate it out repeatedly until you saturate with that, then what happens is that anything that materializes for you in your life has to come through that frequency. It has to come out of that frequency. You don't attract it to you. It actually sort of rises up out of the field and just sort of appears out of the frequency that you're choosing in any given moment. So if you choose a frequency that's a victim frequency, or you're complaining, or you're saying, well, I never get anything, and I get it, but then I lose it, or people never support me.
Nobody likes me.
Yeah. Then you're going to keep getting experiences that are of that type, because that's what your tuning fork is chiming, out into the world. As soon as you change it, you start to get different sort of opportunities, different ways of thinking, and things start expanding.
Do you think professional athletes, successful ones, hockey players, football players, baseball players, basketball players, when they're in the groove, do you think they've got this frequency going for them?
Absolutely. It's one of the better ways of examples of it, I would say, because they're in a fluid state as well. They know that in order to perform well, they have to be fully in their body, very aware of everything around them, 360 degrees, and able to flow wherever the flow is taking them, where their mind is not interfering. And that is the kind of higher frequency that I'm talking about. It has to do with kind of an inspired flow.
And this intuition that you use, I guess you would say you can use it every day, can't you?
I think you use it almost in everything, to get information, to get insight, even to create a plan for what you're going to do. You could say, I have to do A, B, C, D, and E tasks, but which one should come first? I had a client who was a headhunter who sat down with a list of like 80 names on a piece of paper and just sat and looked at it and got quiet, and the first name that jumped off the page at him was the one that he called first. And he found that he only had to call about 6 people out of that whole list to get the jobs filled that he wanted, just because he trusted that sense of intuition that he had of how he noticed things, really.
How would you work with a client? I mean, what do you do? How do they come to you?
Well, I do in-depth life readings or business readings where if I'm in person with someone, I actually go into an altered state, like sort of a trance state. And